Well, even though the plight of dolphins and whales on Earth is a very serious matter, every time I see a whale on TV, I can't help but remember a funny story from my youth. It happened when I was in the first grade, and our teacher, Ms. Prentice, was teaching the class about whales. When she had finished, she asked if anyone had questions. Immediately, one of the girls in the class put up her hand and said, "Do whales swallow people?" Ms. Prentice shook her head and said, "No, whales cannot swallow people because they have throat pleats that filter out their food of plankton and krill." But my classmate persisted. She said, "But our Sunday school teacher told us that Jonah was swallowed by a whale." Ms. Prentice was getting flustered, and she sputtered, "I told you, whales cannot swallow people." But the little girl was not satisfied, so she said, "Well, when I get to heaven, I'm going to ask Jonah if he was really swallowed by a whale." By now, Ms. Prentice was angry, and she retorted, "What if Jonah went to hell?" Without missing a beat, the little girl said, "Well, in that case, you can ask him." I soon found out that Albert wasn't finished with his surprises as he next took me to a planet near the center of our galaxy. Xeron was a barren planet without any vegetation on the surface, but beneath the surface, it was home to a race of super-intelligent, spider-like creatures. Their job is to monitor planets in the galaxy to look for planets that can harbor life. Eons ago, they discovered that Earth was ready to host life, and they organized other ET races to seed our planet with life from other worlds. They began with primitive life forms on Earth and gradually moved on up to humans. Thanks to the benevolence race and the other ETs who did the seeding, we can all enjoy the diversity of life on our planet. So when I pressed Albert for more information about the ETs, Albert said that there were numerous intelligent races in our galaxy, many of which had very advanced technology and the ability to travel between the stars. To prove his point, Albert took me to visit an ET spacecraft that was orbiting the Earth. Inside this gleaming ship, I encountered humanoid beings with gray skin, hairless heads, and large oblong eyes. They advised that their race had been seeding life on Earth since the early days, at the direction of the Galactic Council, which is the governing body of all the advanced civilizations in our galaxy. They cannot directly interfere with events on Earth because of the previously mentioned Star Trek-like directive, and hence they've had to watch other advanced civilizations like Atlantis and Lemuria crash and burn. But they have been able to help humans advance in subtle ways by telepathically providing knowledge and technological insights to humans whenever possible. They are very concerned that humans have once again reached a transition point where we either move up the vibratory ladder or crash and burn. Albert said this race was only one of many advanced races of ETs who've been monitoring our planet for eons. And the spacecraft I visited was one of the many different UFOs that have been sighted by humans over the ages. Albert confirmed again to me that the ETs who have visited Earth from time to time are all benevolent creatures who did not in any way endanger humans on the planet we call home. Albert went on to explain that sometimes ETs actually live among us undetected. And to demonstrate his point, he took me to the University of Oxford in England. We touched down near the John Radcliffe Hospital and waited near the front door. Soon I noticed a pert, neatly dressed lady in her 50s leaving the entrance with a brown paper bag in her head and finally settling down in the shade to eat her lunch. Albert said this lady was a professor at the medical school teaching classes in neuroscience. He said she was not a human, but a member of an ET race from a planet many light years from Earth. She'd been planted here 9 years before, disguised as a human, and her human name was Amanda. Her ET race had been visiting and monitoring life on Earth for many years, and sometimes they created human disguises to allow them to live among humans without being detected. This allowed them to more closely observe human behavior patterns so they could better understand how we functioned. Then Albert waved his hand over Amanda, and her human facade slowly disappeared, allowing me to see her in her natural state. She was a blue humanoid creature with large bald head and shiny black eyes. She had arms and legs similar to humans, except she had 5 fingers and a thumb on each hand. She looked to be around 6 feet tall and wore a silver metallic jumpsuit that glittered in the sunlight. As soon as she was revealed to me, she smiled and spoke to us by telepathy. She said her race has very advanced technology that is light years beyond human technology. They've been traveling among the stars for thousands of years and have learned how to create realistic 3D holographic projections that allow them to masquerade as anything they choose. She said she has a small holographic projector implanted in her chest that she controls by her thoughts. When humans see her as Amanda, they're actually viewing her very lifelike human disguise, an illusion complete with all of the physical attributes of a Homo sapien. Her disguise was so sophisticated that no humans could detect her true identity. She said that living among humans allows them to get an intimate perspective on what makes us tick, so they can understand what motivates humans and what triggers their negative emotions. She noted that humans on Earth stand out among all the intelligent races in the galaxy because of our propensity to inflict abuse on one another, something that seldom happens with other intelligent races in the Milky Way. Toxic emotions are unique to humans on Earth, and they are trying to determine the cause so they can find a way to suppress these feelings. They are doing this to help our civilization curb its abusive behavior before we end up destroying ourselves. This is why she teaches at the medical school in Oxford, because it allows her to explore the workings of the human brain as part of her research without raising suspicions from the other staff. She advised that there were many others from her race who were engaged in similar activities throughout our planet, and she sincerely hoped that they would find a solution before it was too late. She then morphed back to her Amanda disguise and returned to the hospital. And then to reinforce his point that ETs have been affecting us in subtle ways.
What do you know about the Bermuda Triangle? Have you ever been there for work purposes or training purposes?
I was there once for